Have you ever stopped to think about what drives a man to reject absolute power? In a Rome hungry for leaders, some generals made the extraordinary choice to put the good of the city above their personal ambitions. Picture this: power within reach, yet the decision to serve the Republic prevails. You might think all leaders seek the throne, but what if I told you there were those who preferred the honor of loyalty to Rome over the imperial crown? What motivates these men to turn down the glory that most dream of? In this video, we'll explore the lives and decisions of Roman generals who chose integrity and service over power, revealing what we can learn from their bravery and principles. Get ready to discover stories of courage that defy logic and show that sometimes true power lies in serving what you believe in. Let's get started. Imagine a world where the lure of absolute power is at your fingertips. Yet some men, standing at the peak of influence, turn it down. In ancient Rome, ambition was a fire that fueled the political machine, pushing men to grasp for the crown of emperor. But among these power-hungry figures, there were a rare few who had the chance to seize control and chose not to. These military leaders, who stood on the edge of becoming emperors, decided instead to remain loyal to the ideals of the Republic. What drove them to reject what most would dream of: fame, wealth, control? It wasn't out of lack of ambition or capability. These were men who had proven themselves in battle, earned the respect of their legions, and had the political sway to take over Rome itself. Yet for them, the integrity of the Republic and the belief in a system greater than one man's rule was worth more than personal glory. Their decisions shook the foundation of what it meant to be a leader in Rome and still resonate with a power that challenges modern notions of leadership. These generals, by refusing the title of emperor, were not only rejecting the idea of absolute rule, but also setting a powerful example for those who followed them. In a society that valued conquest and personal achievement, such decisions went against the grain of what was expected from men of their stature. Rome was a civilization built on expansion and dominance, where the ultimate prize was often control over the entire empire. Yet these men chose a different path. The question then becomes not just what motivated them to walk away from power, but how their actions shaped the course of Roman history. In turning down the throne, they preserved the fragile balance of the Republic, at least for a time. Their stories represent a profound understanding of duty over personal gain. While others succumbed to the temptation of power, these generals recognized that the true strength of Rome lay in its institutions, not in the rule of a single man. They understood that to take the throne would be to undermine the very foundations of the Republic they had sworn to protect. This decision required a level of foresight and self-sacrifice that few could muster, making their choice all the more extraordinary. Ultimately, their rejection of power wasn't just a statement of personal virtue, but a reflection of a deeper belief in the Roman system of governance. By choosing to serve rather than to rule, these men reinforced the idea that Rome was bigger than any individual. Their actions left a lasting legacy, demonstrating that sometimes the greatest power lies not in what you take, but in what you willingly give up. Perhaps the most famous example of such a leader is Lucius Quinctius Cincinnatus. In a moment of crisis, Rome called upon him to serve as dictator, an absolute ruler with the power to make decisions without the Senate's approval. Cincinnatus, a retired military man living a simple life as a farmer, answered the call. In a stunning display of leadership, he quickly resolved the conflict, defeating Rome's enemies with efficiency and brilliance. But what set Cincinnatus apart wasn't just his tactical genius. It was what he did afterward that earned him legendary status in Roman history. After securing victory, Cincinnatus was offered the opportunity to remain in power. He could have easily extended his reign, using his newfound popularity to shift Rome's political system in his favor. But instead, Cincinnatus did the unthinkable. He voluntarily stepped down and returned to his farm, relinquishing the absolute power that was his to hold. His decision became the ultimate symbol of Roman virtue, a reminder that true greatness comes not from seizing power, but from knowing when to let go of it. His legacy was one of humility and service to the greater good, values that would inspire generations to come. Cincinnatus's decision was deeply tied to the Roman ideal of civic duty. For him, the role of dictator was not a path to personal power, but a temporary responsibility to protect the republic. His refusal to cling to power reflected a profound understanding of what it meant to serve Rome, rather than rule over it. In this way, Cincinnatus embodied the core values that Rome sought to instill in its citizens: loyalty, selflessness, and the willingness to sacrifice for the collective good. This act of returning to his humble life, even after being granted ultimate authority, elevated Cincinnatus to almost mythical status. He became a symbol of the virtuous leader, one who wielded power only when necessary and relinquished it as soon as his duty was fulfilled. In a time when others might have used such power for personal gain, Cincinnatus's humility and commitment to the Republic set him apart, making his story one of the most enduring examples of Roman virtue. Cincinnatus's legacy endured long after his lifetime, inspiring political thinkers and leaders for centuries. Even in modern times, his name has been invoked as an ideal of leadership. The city of Cincinnati, for example, was named in his honor, and his story has been referenced as a model for democratic governance. His example serves as a reminder that true leadership is not about seeking power, but about knowing when to step aside for the greater good. Scipio Africanus is another towering figure in Roman history who had every opportunity to claim supreme power, but chose a different path. Best known for his defeat of Hannibal during the Second Punic War, Scipio earned a reputation as one of Rome's greatest military strategists. His victories in battle, particularly the decisive win at Zama, made him a hero not only to his soldiers but to the Roman populace. With the love of the people, the respect of the Senate, and the unwavering loyalty of his troops, Scipio had all the ingredients needed to stage a coup and declare himself ruler. Yet, despite his immense power, he rejected the notion of personal rule. What made Scipio's refusal to seize power so remarkable was that he was in a position very few Romans had ever reached. His defeat of Rome's most dangerous enemy, Hannibal, had elevated him to a near-mythic status. In an era where military success was often the key to political dominance, many expected Scipio to leverage his fame and take control of the Roman state. But instead of using his influence to position himself as an emperor, he chose to serve the Republic in a more traditional capacity. Scipio's dedication to the Roman system of governance outweighed any personal ambition he might have had. Scipio's decision to remain loyal to the Republic was not without consequence. His refusal to exploit his power led to political rivals undermining him, and he eventually faced accusations of corruption. Rather than fight to maintain his political standing, Scipio retired from public life, choosing to leave the spotlight rather than be drawn into the treacherous world of Roman politics. His withdrawal from Rome's political scene was as much an act of defiance against the corruption of the system as it was a statement of his own integrity. Unlike other military figures who were seduced by the prospect of ruling, Scipio's story highlights a man who understood the dangers of concentrating too much power in one individual's hands. He recognized that Rome's strength came from its institutions, not its leaders. His voluntary exit from the political stage reinforced his belief that no man, no matter how accomplished, should hold absolute power over the Republic. By stepping away, he avoided the trap that had ensnared so many others before him. Scipio's legacy, like that of Cincinnatus, is one of restraint and a deep commitment to Roman values. He showed that true greatness doesn't always lie in taking power, but in knowing when to walk away from it. In doing so, he left behind a powerful example of what it means to serve Rome without succumbing to the allure of tyranny. His life stands as a testament to the idea that sometimes the most heroic act a leader can perform is to relinquish the power that others might desperately cling to. The legacy of these Roman generals, who chose service over personal rule, is one of enduring significance. In a time when the temptation of absolute power was enough to corrupt even the most virtuous, their decisions to step aside left a lasting imprint on Roman society and beyond. These men demonstrated that true leadership was not defined by how much power one could amass, but by how much one was willing to sacrifice for the greater good. Their choices not only preserved the values of the Roman Republic, but also offered a model of integrity and selflessness that continues to resonate through history. By rejecting the throne, these generals made a bold statement. The Republic, with all its imperfections, was still worth protecting. In doing so, they ensured that Rome's system of governance remained intact for future generations. Their actions helped stave off the rise of unchecked tyranny, at least for a time, as they served as living reminders that no individual should ever hold too much power. In essence, they were guardians of Rome's republican ideals, safeguarding them against the erosion of absolute rule. What stands out about these figures is that their legacy goes far beyond their military achievements. While their victories on the battlefield earned them fame and respect, it was their moral fortitude and refusal to claim ultimate authority that truly immortalized them. Their decision to walk away from power challenges the narrative of the power-hungry military leader. In a world where ambition often defined a man's success, these generals became legends not for what they took, but for what they chose to leave behind. Their impact was not limited to Rome alone. The virtues they embodied, humility, loyalty to the state, and a deep commitment to public service, would influence leaders throughout history. From the founding fathers of the United States, who admired the example of Cincinnatus, to political theorists who looked to Rome as a model of governance, these generals left a legacy that transcended their era. They showed that power, when wielded responsibly, could build empires, but when rejected, could inspire movements. In rejecting personal rule, these men did more than just preserve the Republic for a few more generations. They set a standard for leadership that has echoed through the centuries. Their choices remind us that the true test of power lies not in how much one can gather, but in the wisdom to know when to let go. In their actions, we find a timeless lesson that sometimes the greatest service a leader can offer is to resist the temptation of ruling altogether.